The sun had barely set when Marcus, an 11-year-old boy with a basketball under his arm, began the short walk home. To him, it was just another evening. Sneakers tapping the pavement, dreams bouncing in rhythm with the ball. But from behind lace curtains, a pair of suspicious eyes followed his every move. A phone was lifted, numbers dialed, and with them came the weight of centuries of fear disguised as concern. Minutes later, flashing red and blue lights cut through the quiet street, drowning innocence in accusation. What began as a harmless walk would unravel into a truth no one in that neighborhood would ever forget. The day was ordinary, the kind of day no one remembers, unless something unforgettable happens. Marcus had just finished a scrappy game of basketball at the park. His sneakers, scuffed and worn, slapped the pavement as he dribbled the ball down the street toward home. Sweat rolled down his forehead, but his grin carried the carefree innocence of childhood. His backpack hung loose, stuffed with homework he would probably ignore until later. The neighborhood looked perfect, manicured lawns, trimmed hedges, and houses lined neatly like pearls on a string. But beneath the calm were invisible boundaries of who belonged and who did not. Behind a lace-draped window, Mrs. Whitaker watched. She had lived there for years, the kind of neighbor who measured grass with her eyes and complained if cars parked the wrong way. To her, Marcus's presence wasn't innocent. It was an intrusion. She didn't see a boy walking home. She saw a threat, born not of truth, but of bias older than herself. She muttered about keeping the neighborhood safe as she reached for the phone. And with that call, Marcus's quiet walk home was about to become a battlefield of perception, power, and prejudice. The dispatcher's voice was calm, but the report Mrs. Whitaker gave was drenched in coded fear. She described Marcus as suspicious, lurking, and maybe even casing houses. Marcus knew nothing of this. His mind was on the pizza waiting at home. Then came the hum of tires and the blinding flash of red and blue. A patrol car slowed behind him, the officer inside studying the boy with a hardened gaze. The ball Marcus dribbled suddenly sounded too loud, each bounce echoing against the silence of judgment. Curtains twitched. Neighbors peeked. A small crowd gathered, not to help, but to watch. Their stares pressed heavy on Marcus's back. His small frame seemed swallowed by the street as the officer stepped out, hand resting near his holster. Marcus froze. He remembered his parents' lessons. Keep your hands visible, don't run, and don't argue. But he was only 11. Fear doesn't always listen. His basketball rolled into the gutter as he raised trembling hands. Mrs. Whitaker stood proudly on her porch, arms folded, satisfied she had done her duty. Some neighbors whispered their approval. Others looked uneasy but stayed silent. The officer's voice was sharp, his questions cutting deep. Where are you going? Why are you here? Do you belong? Each word stripped away Marcus's innocence. He stammered about basketball practice and about living 3 houses down, but his voice cracked beneath the weight of flashing lights and judging eyes. Minutes stretched into eternity. The officer reached for his radio, ready to escalate, and then another patrol car pulled up. Its door opened, and someone stepped out who would change everything. The crowd hushed. Shoes clicked against pavement. A tall woman in uniform emerged, her presence commanding respect before she even spoke. The badge on her chest glinted under the lights. Police Chief Danielle Carter, but to Marcus, she wasn't just the chief, she was Mom. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Chief Carter's eyes locked on her son, standing small and terrified in the harsh glow of police lights. For a moment, silence swallowed the street. The officer froze, realizing too late the gravity of his actions. Chief Carter walked forward, her face a storm of control and fury. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her authority radiated without a word. She looked at the officer, her expression sharp as steel, and then at Mrs. Whitaker, whose smug smile collapsed under the weight of that gaze. It was an image that seared itself into memory. A black mother, the highest-ranking voice in law enforcement, standing between her son and the prejudice aimed at him. Neighbors shifted, ashamed. The officer lowered his eyes, fumbling for words. Mrs. Whitaker shrank into herself, suddenly exposed. Marcus trembled, but his mother's presence surrounded him like armor. The boy once seen as a suspect now stood as the chief's son. The power had shifted, but the scar of the moment would never fade. The lights dimmed. The murmurs faded. Chief Carter placed her hand on her son's shoulder. She didn't need to reveal who she was. The uniform said enough. But she chose to speak not for pride, but for truth. This boy you saw as a threat is my son, an 11-year-old child walking home. Her words cut through the night, forcing everyone to face what had just unfolded. Mrs. Whitaker shrank into the shadows, her justification exposed as prejudice. The officer felt the weight of shame. The neighbors, silent witnesses, were left to confront the fact that they had not just seen injustice. They had allowed it to play out before their eyes. Marcus clung to his mother's hand, his innocence bruised but not broken. That night, the street didn't just see a boy and his mother. They saw a mirror reflecting centuries of bias. They saw how even children could be marked as suspicious for the color of their skin. The next day, the lawns were trimmed, the mail delivered, and the curtains closed tightly. But nothing was truly the same. Everyone carried the memory of that night, the shame, the fear, and the revelation of what had been exposed. For Marcus, the lesson was harsh but unforgettable. For the community, it was a wake-up call. And for anyone hearing this story, the question still lingers. If an 11-year-old child walking home can be seen as a threat, what does that say about the world we've built? And more importantly, what will we do to change it?